guys, welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, well then you won't know that it's been a minute since I've uploaded. If you are new here, you will know it's been a couple of weeks because I have been traveling around the US. I'm not going to talk specifically about my travels or where I've been on this channel, but if you do want to follow along with that, you can check me out on Patreon, so I'll put the link below. I'm actually house sitting and dog sitting at the moment, which is why I'm like perched awkwardly in a guest room somewhere in sunny California. So I've been in the US for over 2 months. I've been in the US for over 2 months now. The longest that I've been in the US since I moved to the UK almost 10 years ago. So it's been a wild ride. And in this video, I wanted to talk about some more things that I've noticed about the US that are different than the UK, or just things that I forgot about the US since being gone. So one of the first things has to do with driving, and I'm going to do a whole video on like American versus UK driving because it is so different. And also it's different when you go state to state. So I've never driven in or seen people driving in California before, particularly like Southern California and Los Angeles. Completely different world to suburban Florida driving. But one of the things that I've noticed is that as Americans, I feel like we need more space on the road. Like we leave a lot more space than British people would. So when my husband drives and like passes a cyclist or a car, he is pretty happy to pass, like leaving enough room but not a ton of room to an American. And to him, that's how you drive, and that's how you drive in the UK because everything is just so cramped. They learn how to drive pretty well, going around barriers and whatever. In America, my driving and the driving of people I have noticed in America, we like to give people, like ourselves and others, a wide amount of space. So if I'm going around someone on a bicycle, I am basically like, if I have the space, I'm gonna be in the opposite lane if no one's coming towards me to give them as much room as possible, not just for them, but for me, so I don't hit them because I don't trust myself not to, if I'm passing someone too closely, like I just need room. I feel like American drivers, we need room. We drive in a way that is definitely not the kind of like zipping around each other that the UK does. Okay, the next thing I've noticed, and my husband has helped me notice, is that in America, we like our ice. Now, I knew that in America, it's much more common to have ice in our drinks than it is in a lot of Europe, but it's actually pretty funny because we have been staying at a couple of hotels, and he's like, why are there signs for the ice machine? Why do Americans need an ice machine? And I'm like, well, we need an ice machine to put the ice in our coolers for our snacks and our drinks, obviously. And that's just not something that you really find in the UK, like signs in a hotel to the ice machine, and ice buckets and things like that. It definitely seems like more of an American obsession with having ice, having our drinks cold, just having ice in a hotel room, like in case you need it for some reason. So the obsession with frozen water definitely seems to be more of an American thing. And one of the things that I don't notice a lot of this stuff until he points it out or asks questions about it. I'm like, why wouldn't you have an ice machine? And he said, well, why do you need an ice machine? I'm like, I don't, just in case you need ice. And he was like, ice for what? And I'm like, I don't know. We just like our ice and being able to easily access it and having it in our drinks. Usually here, they're not going to ask you if you want something with or without ice. It's just going to be assumed that if it's supposed to be a cold drink, you're going to have it with ice. So along with that, the third thing I have noticed and remembered about America since being here are free refills. So this doesn't have to do with alcohol, but usually if you get like a soft drink at a restaurant, something like Sprite or really any soft drink you can think of, usually 95% of the time, it's going to be free refills. So you pay one time, even if it doesn't say this on the menu, you pay one time, you pay $3 or whatever it is, and you should expect that the waiter is going to keep topping up your drink and it's not going to cost you anything extra. Free refills also applies to somewhere like a fast food place where you would serve yourself, but you can just keep going and getting as much as you want. And the same thing goes in a restaurant for soft drinks typically like something juice or something, but if it's alcohol, then no, you're gonna have to pay for another cocktail or drink. But when it comes to soft drinks, free refills in America, do we need all those extra free refills? Probably not. Are they nice to have? And is it fun to be able to continually have free refills? Yes, it is. And in the UK, obviously this is different because you usually are going to be paying each time you have a drink. So if you get what would be a lemonade in the UK and you order another one, you're going to usually be charged multiple times for how many drinks you had. In the US, it would just be one fee. You pay for the one time and you keep getting free refills. And the next thing I've noticed, which I think I brought up in my last video, but I'm just going to reiterate again, America is so loud. We just accept being loud as a part of life, whether it's like the world around us. Being here in LA is so loud, unlike anything I've experienced in London. London is another major city. LA is constantly loud. People are loud, and we don't find a problem with that. There's not a lot of instances where like you're going to be shamed for being loud, probably because everyone else is being loud too. We were in kind of a sports bar restaurant and a football game happened to be on, and it wasn't like a sports bar specifically for watching the game, but the game happened to be on. And so there was kind of a mix of sports people and like regular people who were interested in the games. Oh my God, the people were cheering and screaming and booing for their team or against the other team so loudly. And I was just like, this would never happen in the UK. Yes, people get loud over football, English football. We were watching American football. And people do get loud when it comes to like specifically cheering on your team. But in everyday life or in a restaurant where the sole purpose isn't just to watch the game and people are going to rein it in ever so slightly. Not so in America. We are very loud. Okay, hi, hello, welcome back. So my other camera died and I'm using a different one with a lens that I don't even know how to use because it's one of my husband's like vintage lenses. Okay, whatever. And so now I think we're having a little bit of like a fireside chat kind of vibe. But anyway, on to the next one. So the next thing I wrote down was baseball. Americans love baseball, and it's one of the things that makes me feel the most like at home or I have arrived in the US is passing a recreational area or playground or whatever and seeing a baseball diamond. They do have baseball in the UK. No, sorry. They do know what baseball is in the UK, and I know that there are some like recreational leagues in places, but it's not a sport that is played by most people or followed by the vast majority of people. They do have a game called Rounders, which would be kind of played like by kids on like the school grounds. It's not exactly like baseball. You do kind of like run around in kind of like a diamond-y shape, and just swing something to hit a ball, but it's not the same as baseball. So yeah, baseball is something very American that you're definitely surrounded with when you're here. Professional baseball is very popular in a lot of areas. The Dodgers are an LA baseball team that were doing pretty well. I don't know how they're doing now, but a couple days ago they were winning and everybody was excited and had their Dodgers gear on. And different states will support different sports differently. So in Florida, like in Orlando, we don't necessarily have a ton of like avid baseball fans that you necessarily see walking around because I don't think we don't have like a professional baseball team that anyone cares about. Maybe we have one, but if we do, no one cares about them. But different cities and different states will come together for their love of baseball. And again, just seeing like baseball diamonds and the bases and the kind of like quintessential baseball clay really makes me feel like I'm at home. Okay, so the next thing that I've noticed about America is that we are friends right away with strangers. Now, is the friendship based on anything like actually substantial? No, of course not. But we like to get close pretty quickly. So for example, I went to a wedding a couple weeks ago, and my husband and I talked to a complete stranger at the beginning of the wedding. And we only talked to her briefly during the ceremony. I believe she was a family friend of the bride. And you know, we just had some like basic chat. We're sharing things about our lives or whatever. At the end of the night, we found her when we were saying goodbye and leaving, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, like have a great time. I love you guys." And I was just like, no one in the UK would profess their love for a stranger unless you had drunk too much, which wasn't the case with this person. She just genuinely wanted to express her love for us. That would never happen in the UK. We're just, as Americans, like instantly super friendly, instantly like want to be best friends. And again, it's not based on much. We couldn't possibly get that close or learn that much about her life or really love each other in the span of one wedding. But we definitely do. We find it easy and natural for the most part to get close pretty quickly. Genuinely, I'm pretty sure she, like, if we had stayed in that city longer, she would have invited us to dinner. That's just not something that happens in the UK. It's a much slower process of getting to know someone, whereas here in a lot of cities and a lot of states, you meet someone in line at the grocery store, and the next thing you know, your best friend's going on vacation. We just kind of assume that we're going to be friends with everyone. You love everyone. And I can hear my British audience being like, but it's not real. Of course you don't. Figure out for yourself what you think of that. But as Americans, we are very instantly like, we click with people and we want to be very friendly and open right away. And the next thing I've noticed, and actually the last thing that I have on my list for this video about the differences between America and the UK, has to do with being a teenager in both countries. And I want to do a whole video exploring this. I cannot speak to being a teenager in the UK, but based on what my husband has said, the concept of being a teenager is slightly different in both places. I feel like in the US, we really celebrate what it means to be a teen, and we have a lot of like milestones that they wouldn't have in the UK. So things like the homecoming dance, which I think I've talked about in another video, prom. I know in the UK you do have like school dances and possibly prom, but not to the extent of like an American prom. And because a lot of us drive earlier than we probably should be allowed on the roads in the US, you have a lot of freedom as a teen. And so there's a lot of things to do in terms of getting involved, you know, just hanging out with your friends. And I'm not saying that in the UK they don't hang out with their friends as a teen, because of course they do. But from my understanding and from what my husband has told me, a lot of being a teenager in the UK is kind of just getting through it. No one really likes you. You're a teenager. And they do a lot of like hanging out in random parks that they've walked to or taken the bus to from their house, possibly starting to experiment with drinking, because the drinking age is 18 in the UK. So people tend to drink when they're like 15 or 16 earlier. And it just, honestly, it sounds kind of bleak. Being a teen in the UK sounds relatively bleak. I don't know if that's exactly the case, so we're going to do a whole video exploring this. People who are British, leave your comment below of what you think it's like to be a teenager in the UK. But I do think there's something very American about like this whole culture behind being a teenager, and we see it in like Hollywood movies and stuff. I think we really like idealize that time in a person's life, and teens do have access to a lot of different things and maybe a little bit more freedom than they would in the UK, particularly because here we also don't have as much pressure. We do have a ton of pressure on teenagers to figure out like, where are you going to go to college? Are you going to go to college? But we also don't have the same pressure that they face in the UK of having to like declare things that they want to do their GCSEs in. Like in the UK, you kind of have to narrow down when you're pretty young. I want to take these classes because this is what I want to do in college, university. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. In America, when you're 16, you're just 16. You're in high school. Yes, it's pretty much stereotypically like the American high school in movies. You're enjoying being a teen. You'll figure out college when you're, 17, 18. We don't necessarily have that intense pressure on a teen to like figure out their educational path at like 15 or 16. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this video. If you're a regular viewer, thank you very much for watching. If you're a new viewer, I hope you enjoyed some of these differences, and definitely stick around because I've got a lot more great content coming your way. It might be like one video a week for a while, but I will definitely try to keep bringing you guys some of the stuff that you want to know about life in the UK as an American and life in America as an American who lives in the UK, trying to figure it all out. Basically what feels like for the first time. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.